It is honestly incredible to see how commonly Legends of Runeterra is dishing out Ws. Despite the obstacles they are dealing with, they have always been amazing at one thing: exploring the world of League of Legends. And I still believe that this game has done so much work for League's world that I have no doubt its exploration rippled into other projects such as future games, maybe Arcane, or even the MMO. The raw lore expansion this game brings is insane. And yet again, with the latest Legends of Runeterra expansion, we got another W just appearing from thin air. As of me recording this video, the cards are still rolling out. And I kinda wanna make a separate video talking about them all, because there is a lot to mention. And already, despite not having the full set of cards yet, we got a few cards that really got people talking. The first one that made people pause was Nilah. And this happened for two reasons. The first reason is related to all of her companions. These seem to be the fellow heroes of the 7th layer hailing from Kafkan. This would be the first time we get to see them. And it's also interesting to see how some of them are wearing the sigil of Kamavor. Or at least it is a sigil very similar to what Viego or Vladimir are wearing. Of course, Kafkan is a nation on the Kamavoran continent, who are right next to Kamavor itself, and who didn't have the best relationship in the past. Historically, these two nations have always been at war, meaning that if, for some reason, both of these nations have a similar sigil, then maybe it is connected to the entire continent, because there is a lot of history happening here. Anyway, it is possible that we'll get more details on this as more of the cards roll out. Now, the second reason why people paused is because of Nilah's description. As you can see, here she fought a monster called Yasila, or something like that, I have no idea how to pronounce that, which is likely around Bilgewater, which would make sense because that's where we saw her last time. And this fight is also very much in character for her. Wielding the power of Ashlash, which is one of the 10 great demons, she is traveling around the world and challenging the biggest monsters she can find, so that she can not only protect people from them, but also so she could spread her name around and become a great hero. But you see, in her description it was mentioned that currently she is heading into the Freljord, because she wants to fight the Volibear, which sounds like quite a challenge. Yes, this one is crazy for multiple reasons. First of all, it will be interesting to see the fight of someone who is wielding the power of a great demon, fighting a literal old god of the Freljord. That is, if we actually get to see that fight ever. But also, I thought Nilah was currently looking for Viego. That was in the latest story she got. She even interrogated Graves, who was there with the Sentinels, to learn where Viego is. But now she suddenly wants to go after the Volibear? And yes, in the lore, he is not called Volibear, he's called the Volibear. Anyway, that's literally on the other side of the world. Whatever, as I mentioned, all of these will probably get their own separate videos. Because today, I want to talk about another champion who received a lot of love from Legends of Runeterra. And that would be Janna, who not only got a stellar redesign deeply rooted in the lore, but her level 2 also revealed a whole new side of her that got people talking. There are a lot of people who love the new design, because she's no longer the toilet paper fairy, and she actually looks like the spirit of the wind. But we also got other people who got confused, because she looks nothing like what they expected. Her look is a lot closer to the Ascended, and that's both the Shuriman Ascended and the Targonian Ascended. Where did all the connections to Zaun go? Even on Universe you can see that she's related to Zaun. And well, that's why I'm making this video. Because truth be told, the new design is genius with all of its connections to the lore. So let's talk about what is actually happening here. If you're confused why her level up looks like she is a Shuriman, even though based on the surroundings she is clearly in Zaun, that's because Janna's appearance technically originates from Shurima. Janna is a wind spirit, an embodiment of an element of Runeterra. But her powers are also close to a demigod because she functions in the same way. The more people believe in her and pray to her, the more she gets powerful. Many years ago, as mortals started sailing between continents, a lot of the sailors started praying for good weather and favorable wind. And they very quickly realized that something was happening when they were praying. Sometimes they saw a blue bird before their sails picked up the wind. Well, now we know those are likely the Gale Song swallows, because Legends of Runeterra reveal them too. And no, I don't think that's referencing Zephyr anymore. You'll see why in a second. And sometimes the sailors heard whistling in the wind right before a storm picked up, which served as a warning signal. As word of these omens spread around, they started appearing more and more frequently, because of course, Janna was answering more calls. And rarely people could even see a bird transform into a woman. The faithful called this wind spirit Janna, an ancient Shuriman word for guardian. But over time, it was simplified to Janna. Her name mostly spread around the coasts of the Shuriman continent, with most of her believers coming from a city called Oshravazon, an ancient trade city just north of Shurima, which many years later became Piltover and Zon. Now, the reason why Janna was so popular in Oshravazon is because this trade city served as the main anchor point for seafaring. Anytime you wanted to send something to another continent, the safest way was to use ships from Oshravazon. Which means most people prayed for good weather, Janna got stronger as a result, and long story short, it makes sense why Janna is so heavily connected to this place. But then, the Shuriman Empire started to rise, and they started conquering all the surrounding cities. Which means that eventually, the Shuriman Empire enveloped Oshravazon too. For a time, the devotion to Janna continued, but soon the Emperor issued a decree suppressing all false idols, which means that Janna's statues had to be taken down. But despite that, many people remained firm believers in secret, because Janna was still the only one who could protect them from storms. As years passed, with all the suppression happening, Janna's powers waned, but she kept protecting the city regardless. She did so when the Shuriman Empire fell, when the Darkins brought war and chaos, and she even remained around when the city became known as simply Zon. In fact, over the centuries, Janna saw Zon's ambitions grow. The city still remained a robust trade port, but now they had a new dream. They dreamed of cutting a canal through the land that separated the two continents. Because up until this point, if you wanted to get something from one side of the continent to the other, you had to sail around the entire continent. By opening a direct path between Shurima and Valoran, the city would reach unmatched potential. But it would also mean that the city would no longer rely on ships, which also means that the prayers to Janna would wane even more. Fortunately for her, as Zon started its construction, they miscalculated how many explosives they needed to get through the land, and they caused a massive disaster. The river Pilt above collapsed below, causing thousands of people to start fighting for their lives. And the only name they knew that could protect them was Janna. And so, Janna swooped in to save the day. She took on corporeal form, used massive walls of wind to hold back the flooding water, and called for gusts of wind to cut through the suffocating smoke from all the explosives. And just like that, Janna once again became the hero of Zon. But this time, as people saw her in action, their faith grew even stronger. And even these days, with all the Cam Barons causing all the chemical disasters, flooding the city with toxic smoke, Janna's protection becomes even more valuable, because suddenly the spirit of wind can make life in Zon easier with a little bit of breathable air. Now, this was the TLDR of Janna's story. Now it should be obvious why she looks Shuriman and what is she doing in Zon. Her appearance is tied to the fact that historically people from the Shuriman continent prayed to her, so she reflected her appearance in their honor, and she is in Zon because Zon used to be a Shuriman city that praised her. But this is not where all the cool connections end. As you saw, her level 2 gives her a whole new design. And so far, it seems like it is safe to believe that this is her true form. The form you saw before is what Janna makes herself to look like so that she doesn't scare those who believe in her. But this is likely who she really is. You can see that she has wings very similar to someone like Morgana or Kayle or their mother. So some people think that this confirms that Janna is a Celestial. But I don't entirely believe that. Celestial magic is often different from elemental magic or even nature magic. And Janna should be more on the elemental side since she is the spirit of wind. With that said, Celestials shaped and affected how Runeterra was developed. I mean, they were the ones who scattered the world runes around the planet. And you may notice that many animals around Runeterra look very similar to Celestials. From birds to dragons. This could be because, in theory, life on Runeterra was affected by the Celestials themselves. So just like some of the animals mimic those beings, maybe Janna also has similar features. She may not be a Celestial herself, but she is certainly related to them. But of course, none of this is confirmed and it is all just a theory that is floating around. Now, what is cool is that not only did Legends of Runeterra show us the Gale Song swallows, which are the birds that follow her wind, but they also gave Zephyr a new look. Its name is Exalted Cloudwinder, but the description confirmed that it is indeed Zephyr, the original bird that followed Janna around. And here you can see how they are accompanying ships heading out from Zaun. Lastly, there is one more cool detail we can mention. Since Janna is heavily connected to Zaun, it makes sense why you can find her statues in something like Convergence. But in one of the new cards, you can also see one of the statues that was taken down by the Shuriman Empire. This one is simply called the Sunken Temple. And it not only shows one of the giant statues that Janna had there, but it also shows us the ruins of the original Oshravazon. And honestly, even though this is just a piece of art for a card game, somehow with all of these environmental pieces, I am really getting excited for the MMO again. But anyway, that should be it for now. As I mentioned, Legends of Runeterra is going to reveal a lot more. And right now, people are wondering who will be the last champion revealed. Will it be someone like Volibear, which would make a lot of sense, or something smaller like Vex? Well, we'll probably see either later today or tomorrow. But when it comes to Janna's cards, I noticed something that might be turned into a funny situation later. If you look at her true form, she does look a little bit like a harpy or a birdie humanoid. Which makes me wonder if Azir learns about Janna's true form. I don't think he's gonna be very happy about another birdie human challenging him as a false idol.